Coming up tonight, Gamecock women's basketball remains the #1 seed.
Later, baseball season is just around the corner.
And finally, an NFL divisional round recap.
These stories and more on Palmetto State Sports.
From the Blue Ridge Mountains and through the Midlands down to the coast, there's plenty of sports highlights and moments here in South Carolina. There's only one place where you'll catch all the action. This is Palmetto State Sports.
Welcome into Palmetto State Sports. I'm Amanda Baranowski.
And I'm Colleen Sholtis. Thank you for joining us tonight. Lamont Paris and the Gamecock men's basketball team suffered yet another defeat after they faced the now number 15 ranked Auburn Tigers on Saturday afternoon. After what seemed to be a rocky start for the Tigers turned into a takeover after Johnny Broome displayed a season-high 27 points and 11 rebounds, just enough to offset Gigi Jackson's career-high 30 points.
After a 12-3 run late in the first half, the Tigers took complete control and dominated the second half, finishing off another win 81-66. Here's what head coach Lamont Paris had to say about the team's performance.
I think some of it is just being consistent, doing things consistently. We haven't done things consistently. We'll have small stretches in some games, a decent amount of stretches in other games, and then no stretches in some games of doing the things that we want to do.
The Gamecocks traveled to Gainesville to take on the Florida Gators with tip-off just a few minutes ago.
Gamecock women's basketball continued their undefeated season this past Sunday after a win over Arkansas. Aaliyah Boston had a record-setting 73rd career double-double with 13 points and 14 rebounds, topping Sheila Foster, who held the record since she played back in 1982.
Boston is expected to be the #1 pick in the WNBA draft next year, and along with teammate Bree Beal, is a top 15 finalist for the Naismith Women's Defensive Player of the Year. The list will narrow to 10 in a month and then 4 finalists, finally with the winner being announced March 29th.
The Clemson men's basketball team made history Tuesday night in a victory against Georgia Tech. The Tigers have won 9 out of their first 10 conference games of the season, the most in school history. During the first half, Clemson took an early lead against the Yellow Jackets. Brevin Galloway scored 12 points, leaving the Tigers up 9 at halftime with a score of 37-28.
They continued to lead in points during the second half, with Chauncey Wiggins scoring a season high of 12 points. Clemson's offense continued to dominate, with point leader freshman P.J. Hall scoring 17 points throughout the game. Although Clemson led with 11 turnovers at the end of the game, it didn't stop them from taking control of the ball. The Tigers defeated the Yellow Jackets with a final score of 72-51, making them ranked first in the ACC. This win also makes it 15 straight wins for Clemson at home. They will look for another conference win as they head to Florida State on Saturday.
The South Carolina Gamecocks men's baseball team gears up for its upcoming season with a series of scrimmages this weekend. The Gamecocks will play 3 inter-squad games, meaning that the players will compete against each other as a form of team practice.
The scrimmages will take place this Friday at 3:30 p.m., Saturday at 3:30 p.m., followed by a final game on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. These games will all be hosted at Founders Park Stadium. This will be the first time fans will be able to see the team in action for the 2023 season. Although regular season games do not start until February, the Gamecocks continue to prepare. All of the scrimmages this weekend are free and are open to the public.
Coming up, SGTV News 4 sports reporter Spencer Ball will give us a glimpse at the sports world outside the Palmetto State.
Welcome back, Gamecock fans. Sports doesn't just happen here in the Palmetto State. Here's what's going on around the country and the world. Starting off with the AFC matchups in Kansas City, despite superstar quarterback Patrick Mahomes playing through an ankle sprain he suffered late in the first quarter, it was the Chiefs' defense who forced 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter to punch their ticket to the AFC Championship game. They will host the Bengals for an AFC Championship rematch from last year. The Bengals traveled to Buffalo this past weekend and dominated them in the snow. Joe Burrow threw for 242 yards and 2 scores, and Joe Mixon eclipsed the century mark and punched in a touchdown on the ground. You can watch the Bengals take on the Chiefs this Sunday at 6:30 p.m. On the NFC side of football, third time is not the charm as the Eagles dismantled the Giants for the 3rd time this season. The Eagles' offense put up a staggering 416 yards, and their defense held the Giants to only 7 points. They will host the San Francisco 49ers, who knocked the Cowboys out of the playoffs for the 2nd year in a row. The 49ers defense played a fantastic game, limiting the Cowboys to 12 points and forcing Cowboys QB Dak Prescott to throw 2 costly interceptions. The 49ers will travel to Philadelphia to face the Eagles this Sunday at 3 p.m. Now moving on to some NBA news, LeBron James broke yet another record last night. He becomes the first player in NBA history to score 40 or more points against every single team in the NBA after a 46-point performance against the Clippers. LeBron is also rapidly closing in on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record, and he should reach that mark within the next few weeks. LeBron's continued dominance at his age is completely unprecedented, as he is having the most prolific season ever for a 38-year-old. The ever-popular GOAT debate between James and Michael Jordan will be getting even more intense if James keeps shattering records. Coming up, let's see what Dakota has to say about some under-the-radar sports.
Gamecock Track and Field completed the final day of the Carolina Challenge this past week, coming out with a total of 8 wins. The Gamecocks also secured 19 marks that rank in the NCAA Top 50. Sophomore distance runner Rogerio Amarillo made his season debut in the men's 3,000-meter race, where he not only secured a personal best, but also set the new program record for the race at a time of 8 minutes and 2.55 seconds. Other Gamecocks also came out with an individual win, include 5th-year Evan Miller in the men's 200-meter, junior Dylan McCarthy in pole vault, and junior Dylan Taggart in shot put. Both McCarthy and Taggart came out with new personal records. Sophomores George Luke, Ethan Mathis, Jake Manningoy, and freshman Jackson Dawson took second in the distance melody relay with a time of 10 minutes and 22.44 seconds. The women's team came out with 2 individual wins, led by sophomore Jayla Jamison in the 200-meter sprint and 6th-year Katie Young in shot put. Jamison's time is 6th best in NCAA this season and a new personal record. Jamison, along with senior Angel Frank, junior Eliza Johnson, and sophomore Janelle Register, took the win for the women's team in the 4x400-meter relay with a time of 3 minutes and 32.40 seconds, the 7th fastest time in the NCAA this season. I actually had the opportunity to go see the track team myself in person, and they have so much talent on this roster.
Yeah, it's really cool to see them not only set personal best, but also have success at the national level.
Another Gamecock setting program records this past week is graduate student diver Brooke Sholtis in the women's 1-meter event. Schultz' record-breaking score put her at 1st place in the event and earned her a 5th SEC Diver of the Week honors. Schultz was followed on the podium by fellow Gamecock sophomores Sophie Verzai and Blair Eisenhower, both with new personal best. Verzai set her 2nd personal best of the day in the women's 3-meter springboard, and Eisenhower's new personal best was in the same category. Verzai took 1st place, followed by Schultz and Eisenhower in 2nd and 3rd, respectively. In the men's division, freshman Charlie Bayer took 1st place in the 1-meter event and 2nd place in the 3-meter event, where he set a new personal best. Senior Manny Vasquez-Baz entered 2nd place in the 1-meter event and 1st place in the 3-meter. Stay tuned for the Palmetto State calendar.
Before we go, let's take a look at the Palmetto State calendar. Starting off with men's basketball, the Gamecocks traveled to Gainesville to take on the Florida Gators with tip-off with just a few minutes ago at 7 p.m. They will then head to Georgia to play the Bulldogs on Saturday with a 3:30 tip-off. And finally, come home to face Mississippi State in Colonial Life Arena on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m.
The Clemson Tigers men's basketball team will head to Tallahassee for a 5 o'clock tip-off on Saturday against Florida State. Following that game, the Tigers will head up north to Boston College for a Tuesday night 7 p.m. game.
Finally, for men's hoops, the Chanticleers will play JMU in Harrisonburg at 7 p.m. They will then travel back home for a Saturday afternoon 4 p.m. game against Old Dominion.
Moving on to women's basketball, the undefeated Gamecocks will travel to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama on Sunday with a 1 p.m. tip-off. The Clemson Tigers are set to face Georgia Tech in Atlanta tomorrow at 7 p.m. They will then head to Chapel Hill to play the number 15 ranked Tar Heels on Sunday at 4 p.m.
Coastal Carolina women's basketball will also play the Dukes of JMU tomorrow at home at 6 p.m., and then they will head to ODU on Saturday for a 2 p.m. tip-off.
That's all we have for this week of Palmetto State Sports.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SGTV Sports, and to keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtvonline.com. For SGTV News 4 Sports, I'm Colleen Sholtis.
And I'm Amanda Baranowski. From all of us here at SGTV, have a great night, Carolina.
Forever to be.